So what's going on? You've been down to spring training already.
I just got back. I got back yesterday. Watched the Rockies. I haven't made my official predictions yet, but I think if you looked at some of the Vegas odds, the over/under on how many wins they're going to have, I think it's 70 and a half. It's fair to say they're going to be over that. And the reason why I say, hold on, the reason why I said this is because first and foremost, I think your top two guys in Cargo and Tulowitzki, and again, it's like getting a nice, paint job or getting the car washed. They look good. Now, what's under the hood, we don't know. We don't know how healthy Tulo is. He says he's feeling great. I saw Cargo. Cargo stopped eating Cheetos, which he was known for doing. He's gone on a completely different diet. He stopped drinking Red Bull. He stopped drinking alcohol. He doesn't go out. He has done everything in his professional.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, he has abs, which he hasn't had in years. Honestly, he looks like the Carlos Gonzalez I saw in 2009. Now, does that translate? I'm not sure, but just looking at those two guys and where I feel they are in health, I think already you can see the Rockies have a much better opportunity to be better than where they were the last 4 years.
Yeah, let me just follow up on what you said about the two big stars of the Rockies. Someone who's inside, like I said Cargo looks like the old Cargo, that he looks even better than the old Cargo. And I saw the other day where he hit like 17 out in 110 pitches or something like that. So I trust him, I trust you, I trust your beliefs, and I trust this person because this is not a media person, this is a person that is on the inside. Said Cargo looks as good as he's ever looked. Looks like he's over the knee and the finger problems. He said, Tulo, I can't tell you about because he just showed up. And it's probably, if he just came back, Tulo had only been there for a day or two.
Well, it's hard to tell with Tulo anyway because he does usually enter the season healthy and then gets hurt during the season, no matter how hard he works in the offseason.
I would agree with you to a point if those two guys stay healthy. And that's all I was going to say. If they stay healthy, you got what's been called in the offseason by people that I trust, again, that are media people on a national level, that say it's one of the 2 or 3 best offensive lineups. But you take either one of them out of there, it drops down to here. And defensively, they struggled last year. And if they're really going to play Rosario at first base, they're going to struggle defensively every time he plays first base. And the pitching, you saw some pitching, but they were probably long tossing, and I'm not trying to get into an argument with him. I'll argue with him. But we don't know about the pitching, and I maintain you have to have 50 victories out of your starting rotation, and I don't see that. And the bullpen was bad last year, and do we know it's any better? So, I mean, there's so many questions with the pitching staff.
Yeah, we do go into most seasons saying if about this team, don't we?
I agree, and as a fan, I can feel like my head's been pounded against the wall for so long because you keep hearing, this is the year, and I think you look at the mantra of the last couple of years. Well, if it wasn't for injury, if it wasn't for this and that, starting pitching, you're right, Woody, that's the most important. I think when you look at last year, Jhoulys Chacin wasn't healthy the entire going into last year, so you were counting on a guy like Jordan Lyles, who ended up, he wasn't even scheduled to be on the Rockies team, was the best starter through April and May. That Rockies team was...
after he came back from injury.
Well, he broke his wrist. Yeah, and again, you look at some of the injury histories and you look at what happened last year. You look at Nolan. To me, Nolan getting hurt mid-May with the wrist injury, breaking his hand, that threw that defense completely out of whack. You were looking at Michael Kadire was playing third base.
And got hurt.
You look at Carlos Gonzalez, perennial left fielder, Gold Glover, is gone with the knee tendonitis, and Corey Dickerson, as great of a hitter as he is not the defensive outfielder.
And Rutledge and Culbertson were playing in place of Tulo a lot of nights.
So the defense, to me, is there. I mean, you look at Nolan's healthy, Tulo, and again, we keep talking about the mantra, like, well, this is the year because the guys are healthy. It is, on paper, they are as talented as any team in the National League West, but it's going to come down to that starting pitching.
Okay, we'll come back to the pitching, but let's go back to what you said. I remember talking to Dick Montfort about this when he was still talking to people a year ago before last season. And he was talking about the previous year when they had injuries. And he said the problem was 2 years ago, you two will remember this, had a lot of injuries in. Tulo and Cargo got
Right.
other people got hurt, and he said we didn't have the depth they had young people, so they went out and got a couple of outfielders, as you know, very good pickups. I think they're still with the team, and they've now gotten veteran utility infielder from the Cardinals and a couple other guys. But last year that was supposed to be better depth. The injuries happened again, and that veteran depth wasn't any better than the rookie kind of depth. That's where I have a problem. Every team is going to have injuries. You know that. The Dodgers had a ton of injuries last year to two all-stars in their three all-stars in their outfield. That you've got to have people that are beneath those guys you're talking about, because it happens. You know that. You played the game for a long time. Injuries are going to happen. It just happens. So we're now talking about the offense and defense. If you could address what I just said in regard to that.
I think looking at the depth, I think the Rockies do have depth, and unfortunately, because of all the injuries, you had 15 starting pitchers make part of the rotation. So that also meant you had debuts out of so many different guys. I think it was 7 or 8 debuts, major league debuts. Well, good or bad, that's experience. You know now what Tyler Matzik is capable of. You see Christian Friedrich, he's not a starting pitcher. He's going to be great in the bullpen. He's throwing 95 miles an hour left-handed with the slider. That's going to make that bullpen stronger. Christian Bergman proved to me that he can pitch at the major league level. That's more depth. That's even if he's in the minor leagues, that's another starting pitcher you bring up. Eddie Butler, who had all the hoopla. Remember we were saying the Butler's going to do it, right? He failed miserably, but then he bounced back towards the end of September. He's got that feather in his cap. He had that experience. That's more depth. So you start looking at it, if Chacin's healthy, De La Rosa, the Rockies went out and they signed Kyle Kendrick, a veteran right-hander from the Phillies. He almost threw 199 innings last year. So he's a potential 200-inning pitcher, eats up the innings. Now we can talk about getting those starters longer into the game so you're not destroying that bullpen. Because last year's bullpen, the biggest problem was that the starting pitching for the Rockies was the worst as far as the amount of innings pitched they were going. So that means the bullpen was having to throw more innings than any other bullpen in baseball. And regardless if you're on a good team or a bad team, if you overexpose a bullpen, the guys are going to be tired. They're not going to be as good.
But, and I promise I'll shut up in a minute.
Keep talking. I don't care.
But see, you're like him in a sense. You're throwing at me where they had the worst number of innings. They were on a 100-pitch count. You know that. You did all their games, most all their games. Walt wouldn't admit it, but they never pitched over 100 pitches, even if they were pitching well. So that's a statistic that I have a real issue with. Oh yeah, well they threw fewer innings the starters did than anybody else. Well, there's a reason why, because they weren't doing that piggyback thing, but they weren't going, because they keep trying to figure out how do you save your pitchers at altitude and the problems they have. And I don't have a problem with it, but I think that lends itself to that wasn't as bad as the pitchers were, and as many were injured. But if you have a company philosophy of you got 90 pitches, we're going to go get you, you are going to use your bullpen up. And you're going to have a bad bullpen.